might have heard this quote. If I had asked users what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And you have heard it used as a reason why you shouldn't do research, why you shouldn't talk to people, and why you should just build whatever you like. Well, if you cannot tell from my tone, I absolutely hate this quote that people often misattribute and has been modeled and destroyed from the original phrasing. So let's talk about it. Let's start with assuming that Henry Ford did say that, which he did not. And I'm going to link to an article in the show notes that breaks down where the origin of that quote actually comes from. But let's imagine that he did say that and then went on to invent his great invention, which, by the way, he did not invent cars. Cars already existed in some form. Neither did he invent the assembly line technically. His innovation was in bringing together two things that already existed in some form to make cars cheaper to produce and more easily accessible. But let's go back to the quote. So let's imagine that he did say that, like for real, Henry Ford actually said it. Let's imagine. First of all, he allegedly said, if I had asked people, they would have said they wanted, which means that he didn't even ask people. Again, supposing that the quote is true, which it is not. He didn't ask people. He was assuming what they would have said, which is the problem with this quote, is because everybody uses it as an excuse to not do research. It's like, I can assume what people want because they don't know what they want, and I can tell them what they want and give them what they want, which is not entirely true. People may not know how to articulate what they want, but they do definitely know what they want. They may not be able to articulate that I want a car because the concept of a car was probably not widely accessible, but they knew when they saw it because it solved a problem, multiple problems actually, that they had. So imagine you are somebody in this era who has horses or a horse. Horses are animals that can die. Horses poop everywhere. Horses may choose not to run fast if they are tired. Horses need to be fed. Horses need to be groomed. Horses need to be taken care of, like in a very expensive and intensive way. If your horse is sick, you can't go anywhere. These are the issues. And so Henry Ford took something that, again, already existed in some form, which is the automobile, existed in some form, and the assembly line, and he created a way of making cars go faster. This is what made him own like 2/3 of the market in the beginning of when he created the Ford Model T. So his ingenuity in taking two things that already existed made him produce cars at such a cheap rate that people were able to buy cars, overcoming all the issues they had with having horses as a means of transportation, both like personally and as a public issue, because like horses dropping dead on the road means flies and diseases and all kinds of things. So that was the solution that he had. However, as you know, Ford is not like the most popular car anymore. By like 6 or 7 years after he had established market dominance, owning 2/3 of the market, it had fallen to a third. And that's because he was not responding to market changes, aka what people wanted and what people had demonstrated that they wanted. So, people may not be able to say, I want a car, but they are able to articulate what they want in the way that makes the most sense to them. And it is up to you, whoever you are, trying to build something, create something, solve a problem, to understand why. What is the issue? Why do they want, in this case, a faster horse? It is when you're able to answer that question that you can arrive at creating a solution that actually works and impacts people positively. It is not when somebody says, I want a faster horse, and then you go and then try to breed faster horses or whatever. It is there you try to figure out what can a faster horse look like. And if you dip it, if you actually think about it, it's like to the person who was seeing a car for the first time and experiencing it. A car is a faster horse. Like, it does what the horse is doing. It moves me from point A to point B, but with less stress. So it is not that you shouldn't talk to users and you shouldn't do research. It is about doing good research, asking the right questions, using the right sources of information, not just what people say, but also looking at what people actually do in making a decision about what kind of product you should build and how you should build it. The reason why you shouldn't, quote unquote, you shouldn't listen to users or to people that you're building for is because they may not be able to articulate what they want in a way that translates to an actual product, but they can very clearly articulate the problems that they have, which is where you should be focusing on anyways. Indy Young talks a lot about problem space research, and I'll link to one of her things in the show notes. But problem space is where you should focus on. What is the problem? What is the problem with the current way of doing things? What is the problem with how people are experiencing a certain thing? And how can we make it better? That is where you should be doing your research. That is where you should be looking at what are people doing, what are people saying, and how are people using things. Not just saying, oh, if I ask people what they want, they'll tell me they want this. You don't have to build this when people say, I want this. You just have to find out what is the reason behind why they want this. And that is what research is about, finding out the why behind what people are saying so you can make good decisions. Let's look at the faster horse example again. If you don't ask why somebody says they want a faster horse, then you're going to make all kinds of assumptions as to what they need. Because people may say they want the same thing, but for different reasons. And the reason that they want it actually impacts whether it's useful to them. So if somebody says, I want a faster horse because I'm a horse racer and I want to win the horse race, then a car is not the solution to their problem. But if somebody says that I want a faster horse because my horse is always tired, I can't get it to move when I need to go somewhere or whatever, then maybe a car is what they need. So again, ask people why. I think that's the point. Like, don't just take things people say at face value. Ask why. And it's not just about asking why. Ask why is shorthand for find ways to understand the reason behind the ask, and then build a solution around the actual problem, which is the reason for the ask, not what they have expressed as what they want or need. You can't just go around asking people what they want or what would they like without getting additional context or even using a different approach, like observing things that are actually happening. There is this famous example from Walmart where they lost like $1.85 billion because they were like, we're going to ask our customers what they want. And they were like, would you like Walmart to be less cluttered? And the customers were like, yes. And then Walmart decided to reduce the clutter in their stores, cut back their inventory, reduce merchandise in the stores and everything. And at first, customer satisfaction was like, yay, we love this. But then when they looked at the actual sales number, there was a huge reduction in their sales in the stores where they had made those changes. So it's not about just sending out a survey and saying, would you like this? Would you like that? It's really about observing and asking in-depth questions to really understand what the problems are and if there are any problems even at all. Okay? There's literally no way to find out what people need and what people will use without doing some kind of research. Like, you have to research, you have to look at the trends, you have to see what exists in the world, you have to see what the problems people are having. This is all part of research. Steve Jobs did not say that you should not do research. He said he doesn't like focus group. But Apple has a huge R&D team and budgets. Like, they're not just building things because they feel like. There are things and thoughts processes and insights that go into decisions that are being made. So don't take a misquote or misunderstanding of a quote and then use it to make terrible decisions that will not get you anywhere. Please do research. Please talk to people. Please observe what people are doing before making decisions. And this is even something that you can do in any kind of situation, not just in a product decision making context or in a business context. It's like if somebody comes to you, your friend comes to say, I want this, or your partner says, I want that, or in your workplace, your colleague is asking you for something, you just don't go and do it. You need to understand why. Please ask why. Ask yourself why. Even when you want to do things, ask yourself, why do I want this? Do I really want this? Why? Ask other people when they ask you for things, ask them why. And in a respectful, nice manner, not in a rude, aggressive manner, please. Yeah. I hope that I have expressed my frustration about this quote and why it annoys me, and how you can actually make use of talking to people and understanding what they need versus what they want and how. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.